Slim Jim Phantom has been the drummer for the pioneering neo-rockabilly group, the Stray Cats, since the band's creation in 1979.
We all discovered rockabilly. Our lives changed completely. This is what we said was going to happen.
And it's happening.
You know, because we said it.
Yeah, what was your reaction to that? I mean,
like this.
Hey, yo, it's DJ Khaled.
Hey, this is Kim Kardashian.
I'm Chuck the Iceman Liddell.
Hey, I'm Scott Storch.
What up, y'all? This is Fat Joe.
This is Sugar Ray Leonard, and you're watching
Before the Fame.
Before the Fame.
Before the Fame.
Before the Fame.
Mike Sherman. Don't ever stop.
Everybody starts somewhere. These are their stories before the fame. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Before the Fame. And I'm your host, Mike Sherman. Today I'm out here in Hollywood, California, in front of the Viper Room on the world-famous Sunset Strip. And today's show is on one of the founding members of one of the hottest groups from the early 1980s, the Stray Cats, the one and only Slim Jim Phantom.
And now, in their American television debut, Stray Cats.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Slim Jim Phantom has been the drummer for the pioneering neo-rockabilly group, the Stray Cats, since the band's creation in 1979. Over the past 40 years, his licks have been the unmistakable backbeat on over a dozen Stray Cats albums and were video mainstays in the early days of MTV. Born Jim McDonald in Brooklyn, New York in 1961 and raised in the Long Island hamlet of Massapequa, the path that would lead him to being one of popular music's most recognized drummers started when he was just in middle school. What made you gravitate to the drums?
Mike, why I gravitated to the drums was because I always knew I wanted to be in music on some level. From watching Midnight Special and American Bandstand and Don Kirshner's rock concert and
Saturday nights at
anything
12
on
o'clock,
Saturday
you gotta stay
night,
up. Of course.
Anything on Saturday Night Live, any band that played live. I knew I wanted to do it on some level. I played in the school band. I couldn't walk a tightrope. I wasn't going to be in the circus. I didn't ride a motorcycle. I wasn't going to be, and I wasn't a tough guy. I wasn't going to be in that. I wasn't quite good enough to be in a pro ball team. But music and the drums, I watched guitar players. I loved them. I loved saxophone players. I was a jazz fan. I loved piano. But the drums, when I saw someone playing the drums, I thought, I can do that. That one I think I can do.
And when I touch you, I feel happy inside.
Who were some of the drummers that you kind of liked when you were a kid?
Well, Ringo and Charlie, for sure, were my two favorites.
What about Peter Criss from Kiss?
Peter Criss was awesome. Still to this day, I like every drummer. And I took lessons from an old jazz cat named Mousy Alexander. Mm-hmm. And he was a couple towns over, maybe Belmore, Wantaw, on that straight shot on the Long Island Railroad there.
Right.
He had played with Benny Goodman and Dinah Washington, and he was a jazz cat. He was this big, he wore a beret, he had a goatee. He said, hey kid, Daddy-O, come on Daddy-O, you gotta play those rudiments, double paradiddles, any schmo can play a paradiddle. Like, he really spoke in that lingo. I had older cousins and we would get together every Sunday and I'd borrow somebody's record and try to play along to that.
Paired with classmate Lee Rocker, Slim Jim cut his teeth by taking the Long Island music scene by storm.
Lee Rocker and I were always the guys that played at the keg party, played at the rec dance, played at the talent show. When someone's parents went out of town and they threw a party, they got broken up by the cops, we were always the band that played. So I always wanted to do it. I just wanted to do it. And then when the Stray Cats came along, we played once and we knew.
But their early sound didn't exactly go over right away in the disco-soaked late 70s. The trio settled on the name Stray Cats and discovered and started playing rockabilly, a callback to the early 50s when Southern rock and rollers blended their country and R&B roots into their music. The Cats changed it up by incorporating another popular genre of music from the 70s, punk rock, and people started to notice. different sound. But you guys came out, I can remember when I was in college, with this cool, rocky, hippie kind of sound. Boom, boom, ba-boom, boom, boom, boom.
Black and orange stray cats hitting on the fan.
And it was catchy, and it was different, okay? How did you guys manufacture this really cool, hippie sound that everybody enjoyed?
That's a good question, Mike, because it gets lost in the sauce a little bit. Yes, it's rockabilly, and that's our main influence. We love the original American rock and rollers. Carl Perkins, Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis, Chuck Berry, Fats Domino, Elvis Presley, Gene Vincent, Eddie Cochran, the most important ones. We love that music. We also loved The Clash and the Sex Pistols and stuff that were coming out of England. And without knowing it, because we're very young, you have to know some of these things organically, because no one at that age is smart enough. And anyone who at that age who is smart enough, I wouldn't trust them. I don't trust someone who's 19 years old and that smart, you know what I mean? It's gotta be a certain amount of you're letting it go without being calculated. So, but we knew that as great as Rock Around the Clock was, greatest record ever made, right? We knew that if you did that, it wouldn't get across to the kids. It's a great sounding record, you and I like it, but to translate it to the new American bandstand or the new kids, you had to inject modern elements into it. So we loved The Clash and we loved Gene Vincent. So we thought that we have to be 1 foot in the roots and 1 foot moving forward the whole time.
Conventional, trap kid, for years. I was okay at it, but when the group started, it just seemed like a natural move to kind of go up to the front to make the whole thing as raw as possible. No gongs or synthesized drums or any of that other nonsense. We just wanted to make it as raw and as sparse as possible. So on all those old records, that's all they used was a snare drum, a bass drum, and a cymbal. So I thought if you want to do it right, do it all the way.
We all discovered rockabilly. Our lives changed completely. We went bags, pants, points, all overnight, and we embraced this music. Luckily, there was one bass player, one drummer, one guitar player from the same Little League team, really. And we did CBGB's and Max's, Kansas City, and all those ones, and every bar that had a stage on Long Island. And we eventually kept at it enough, and we went to England, because that's where it was all happening.
The early 1980s revival of the 1950s Teddy Boy subculture in England seemed straight up the Stray Cats alley. So the band packed up and moved across the pond. And while the eventual audiences weren't necessarily big in number, they were definitely big in getting the Stray Cats noticed.
And we eventually played a few shows after knocking on 1,000 doors, and there was such a buzz about it after they saw us play that we started to get the Rolling Stones and the Kinks and the Who and the Pretenders and the Clash and the Sex Pistols came to see us play. We would play at a pub with 10 people, but one was Ray Davies and one was Chrissie Hynde and one was Captain Sensible and one was Joe Strummer. And in England, everything is smaller. So if you did that in Detroit or New York City or LA, well, the locals would know, but it doesn't translate nationally quite. But we had a built-in story, and then when the Rolling Stones come to a pub and have a table and they're all there to see 3 kids, combined age, 48 years old, in a bar, it caught on and it was in the national newspapers.
After the gig, we walked off the stage and they said the Rolling Stones are out there and they want to meet you.
Yeah, what was your reaction to that? I mean,
Like this.
At a ball tonight.
And luckily in England, among those first people that we met that came to see us was a cat named Dave Edmonds. He found us and said, please let me produce you, because this is what I've been looking for. A rockabilly group that can all play. We all had chops, we all took lessons, and we all knew how to play, yet we were wild, we had an image, and at the same time, we weren't hardheads. We would listen to someone like Edmonds who knew more than us about certain sonic things. I didn't know how to mic a drum kit. I could play the drum kit, I could stand on it, I could look pretty cool when I was playing it, but I didn't know the ins and outs of how to mic it and how to get the echo from the bottom head.
So he taught you all
I
this
didn't know.
stuff.
He he made our first record.
Now can I introduce you to what I think are, well, one of the hottest properties in the record business at the moment. With their first ever single, here come the Stray Cats and Runaway Boy.
That self-titled debut album, released that same year in 1980, produced 3 top 20 hits: Runaway Boys, Stray Cat Strut, and Rock This Town, proving that the 3 Spitfire musicians from Long Island that initially couldn't get booked anywhere could make it after all.
Let's talk about one of the hits, Rock This Town.
Yeah.
Okay, which was a banging hit. When you heard this on the radio for the very first time, where were you and what were you doing?
We were in England, in the back of a car, driving to a gig. Because after the first record was done, you know the story, the first thing they do, you get on the road.
Right.
And the first tour was 30, 40 dates in England.
Uh-huh.
You
guys like high-fiving each other?
Yeah. But still trying to be cool. But we were never too cool for school guys. We were always like exuberant types. Like, can you believe this? This is what we said was going to happen.
And it's happening.
You know, because we said it. We said it to everyone when we left Massapequa, everyone that we arrived in England, we have nowhere to live. Who are you guys, you know, with a different accent, same attitude, different accent, you know. And we said, we're the Stray Cats, we're the best band in the world. Yeah,
we're from New York.
Yeah. Nobody believed us, except for the ones that got it. People like Dave Edmunds, people like Keith Richards, people like Ray Davies, people like Lemmy, who was our original fan and my dearest friend. Those people got it, but translating it to the masses is a whole other story. So Rock This Town, a little bit like a familiar record.
Welcome back. You're watching Before the Fame, and I'm your host, Mike Sherman. As the Stray Cats' fame skyrocketed in the early 1980s, Jim told me what that was like during the early days of MTV. That video was just amazing. Tell me about that video, and that really catapulted you guys.
We were like a British band that signed in England. So it's the world excluding USA.
Right.
So we played England, every country in Europe 5 times, Australia twice, Japan twice, before we came to the States. So when we came to the States, a little bit before that MTV had started, and we were yet to have a contract in the States. But MTV, believe it or not, they needed content. When MTV started, they had 20 videos and 24 hours a day. They had to do stuff. So they played a few of our earlier videos.
I don't bother chasing mice around. Oh, no.
By that time, all over Europe, Australia, Japan, we were playing 2,000 seaters, 5,000 seaters, second or third on a big festival. The States, we started right back in again.
From the bottom.
At the ground floor of clubs, and we believed it again. Okay, we'll just come here and do it again, because America's the prize.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Every English band will tell you that, anyone will tell you that. So when we came back to make it in our own backyard, we need another video.
Well, they need me when late Saturday night.
Do you remember the bowling alley? I think it was Astor Place or 14th Street, around NYU, around that area.
Yeah.
There was a bowling alley that was upstairs. And that's where we did part of it. And the bad guy in the video that's got the mustache and tries to take the girl while she's dancing with Brian, he was the doorman at the Gramercy Park Hotel.
Is that right?
We needed someone to be in the video. He said, I'm gonna take the day off, and he gave us over to the next day. And he came when he was in the Stray Cats video. So things were so wacky.
So when it came time to return to the States, Slim Jim and the Cats headed straight for the place where bands go to get noticed, the famed Sunset Strip in Los Angeles. However, the LA music scene had gotten wind of the Stray Cats, and they were eagerly awaiting their arrival.
When we came to the States, the first place that we came was LA. Because LA was ahead of the curve, and we were getting played on import radio. We had a gig at the Roxy. This was all a dream. Sunset Strip, I've heard of it on TV. So we came here to play. It turned out that without our knowing, it was very big here. We did the Roxy 5 nights, sold out, but 2 shows a day. Matinee show and an evening show. So we did like 10 shows in LA, and I just never left.
Old Massapequa really didn't look that bad.
Today's music trends have drifted away from the rockabilly sound, made famous by the Stray Cats in the 80s and Brian Setzer in the 90s. What does Slim Jim Phantom think about today's musical spectrum?
Music has changed a lot, you know, over the last decade. It's changed a lot. Where do you think music is going, and how does it make you feel?
I think there's a lot of good stuff. And I think the trick is to put your own stamp on it. If we're talking about rockabilly music, now you have the luxury. When we started to do rockabilly music, we had Buddy Holly and Elvis Presley and Little Richard and Chuck Berry and everyone that I've named, Carl Perkins, Dwayne Eddy, all these fantastic people to like put in a suit.
That everybody, including, you know, the Rolling Stones to the Clash, based themselves on 50s rock and roll.
I love you.
It's just the basis of it all. So we thought we'd go back to the beginning and do it the way they did, basically, and just, you know, write new lyrics, write contemporary lyrics.
And you had the Beatles version of rockabilly, and you had what the Stones did, and Zeppelin's hard rock, but it's based in the rockabilly and the blues. It's right
sure
there.
is.
It's like peeled. You don't even have to peel the whole thing off. Peel off that much, and you can see it. So now you also have punk rock to draw from. You have the Stray Cats to draw from now. So I think there's a good future for it. You gotta do something different to it. You know, it's 3 chords. Put that 4th one in there, man. If you can get a 5th one in there, it can be done. And I think the young people want a spokesman from their own generation. That's why when the Stray Cats started, it was 1980, Carl Perkins was still alive and well, right? Johnny Cash still alive and well. Jerry Lee alive and well. But the kids might have thought, oh, that's my older brother, that's my uncle, that's my dad. They look, they see Brian Setzer, they see, you know, that's someone that's from our generation. Playing the blues, playing rockabilly, that they can relate to in their own way. And I think there's going to be other ones right around the corner. And I'm happy to do my bit.
4 decades after forming, the Stray Cats are still rocking towns all over the world, belting out the rockabilly hits that so far have gone unreplicated.
Now, you guys toured in 2019. It was your 40-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, we wanted to do something for 40 years. It's quite an extraordinary feat for anybody.
Sure is.
And we formed in 1979. The powers that be, of course, makes sense, 2020, because the first record was released in 1980. So 2020 is technically, professionally, 40 years. But we formed 1979, and only the original handful of fans, and we would have known that. But we were like, 1979, we started in 79, and for us to agree on something that unanimously, you gotta go with it. And we made our album, got to #3 in the Billboard charts, so there's still, and we did a world tour. The last night of the tour was a magical night. It was in August of 2019, and my wife, Jenny V, she plays in a band called Eagles of Death Metal, and they were the opening act. And we played the Greek Theater. That was like a magical night. Oh, so until we all meet again, everybody, that was like the last gig that we did, and there'll be more.
In fact, the only major change to Slim Jim Phantom's repertoire these days can be found in his driveway.
I spoke to Brian yesterday. He found, I'm a Corvette guy, but I've recently, within the past year, I've become, oh yeah?
Oh yeah.
I've become a Hemi guy. I'll show you my Hemis parked out front.
You went Mopar, huh?
I went Mopar. I still have my Corvette, but I expanded my horizon a bit. So Brian sent me a picture of a 1970 RT Charger.
I knew you were going to say that.
Panther Pink, it's called, with a white vinyl top. I never saw anything like it.
Like a road runner.
He found one, kind of, but not, you know? I wanted to get a new Corvette.
Yeah.
New Corvette,
they're gorgeous.
New Challenger, all this. Everybody out there, it's still 1/4 of the price of a.
And you're staying American.
Of a student model Porsche.
Right.
So
True.
We're not being big shots, right?
True.
So the Corvette, I love it.
Gorgeous.
My driveway goes like this.
Yeah.
I couldn't get it up the driveway.
Oh my God.
So I had the Challenger. If I get it right and get it in the first gear and hit it just the angle, I can
you
just
must live
get
in the
it over
hills.
my.
Oh yeah, that's right. You lived up there.
I can just get it up my driveway.
Right.
So For a year or so, the last year, I've become the Mopar guy, and I love it. But Brian Setzer and I talk all the time about he's a hot rod guy. He's got a 32 Ford he built, and he's looking for a recreational one that he can drive. You know, hot rod's a big statement. So he's looking at this Charger, man. So we might all be Mopar guys for a little while.
Thanks, Slim Jim. You are definitely one of a kind and a modern-day rockabilly hitmaker. Well, guys, that's our show for today. I really hope you enjoyed it. But tune in for next week's show, where once again, we go down memory lane of some of the biggest names in sports, music, and entertainment, all before the fame.